Hello there, my name's Gilly, and today I'm going to show you some auto wheat farms. This is for version 1.16 and above. So I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of each farm and how friendly it is survival-wise. I will talk through the design process that I took when designing these farms. Not everything that is in this video is of my own design. For example, you will find many auto wheat farms on the internet, and you'll see quite a few of them will have the shape similar to what I have in the background. In the past, I have seen hoppers used, and whilst that is fairly simple to build up, the problem with that is that it will generate quite a lot of lag. Now, that's not to say that hopper minecarts won't generate lag. I mean, they do, they really do. However, I wanted to challenge myself to come up with a hopper minecart sort of design. I've not really seen this before for this type of shape of farm, so I thought I'd showcase what I've done. So I'm going to showcase 3 farms today, and each of different designs. So one's simple, one a bit more complex, and then another big. It's just big. So let's get to it. So first of all, we're going to talk about the mechanics of the wheat farms I'm going to showcase to you. All of these farms are villager based. What they're going to do is they're going to go around this entire area, so all of this farmland here, and they are going to harvest the fully grown wheat, and then they're going to plant them with the wheat seeds in their inventory. Those villagers, they need to have a full inventory of seeds. Now, you can either do that yourself, you can give them all the seeds they need. So they have 8 inventory spaces. You can fill that up with 8 stacks of seeds. Now, of course, 8 stacks of seeds are quite hard to come by when you're first starting off in a survival world. You can let them just, fill up their own inventory over time. But it's very important that they don't have wheat in them. Because 1, it means they can pick up wheat that you could pick up. And 2, they can then craft that into bread. So, why is it a problem then that these guys will craft bread? It's because it's going to use up the wheat that are in their inventory. We want that wheat. Just fill up their inventory with seeds, and you won't have any problems. Now we're going to talk about the shape of the farm. Well, the reason we have the shape is it's for maximum range of this farmer villager. So one farmer villager, the maximum range is this sort of shape. Now, I did not discover this shape. This shape has been used many times in the past, often shown in pretty much nearly every crop farm I've seen. Ilmango has shown it. I think he may be one of the first to use it. Don't quote me on that. I honestly have no idea who discovered it. I first saw it in an Impulse SV video for his villager breeder. Now I will link those 2 videos in the description because that's where I got it from. But I have no idea who originally came up with it. Now, of course, with any crop farm, you need water. Since the aquatic update, we've been able to have waterlogged stairs and slabs, so that is what is being used in this design. Now, you can see it here. This is a oak stair, and it's waterlogged, and this trapdoor here stops the water flowing out. Same here, and same here there. It's basically symmetric along here, and I mean, technically it's also symmetric along here. Other water source, it has to be in the center. Now, if we quickly go into spectator mode, you can see here that this is an oak slab, and if I, there we go, you can see that it is waterlogged. With that, you have all the water sources available. The next thing that the crops need is light. So the light arrangement can be shown from above, so that's in the actual roof of this farm. And there has to be a central light which has been placed on top of the composter. You might be also wondering, why are there trapdoors here? This is to do with the villager mechanics. So the villager, it's a farmer villager. Now he will want to use the composter because that's his workstation. If a villager's got seeds in his inventory, he will try and compost it in the composter, and that will generate bone meal. There's definitely better ways of doing an auto bone meal farm. A hostile mob farm is the best sort of way to go for that. But basically, these trapdoors stop the villager from getting to the composter and composting his seed. The main reason we want to stop him doing that is so the inventory just remains full. And this trapdoor here is like too tall, too low even for the villager to get to. As you can see here, he's trying really hard to get there, but he won't do. Another thing about the villager mechanics is that this farm will only work during the day, basically. At night, the villager is out of work hours. They will not do their work, which is basically this crop farm. Whatever dimension you build it in, so I have personally not tested it in the nether. That's the only dimension I haven't tested it in. However, here, in the overworld, it won't work during the night, and the same in the end, actually. When it's night in the overworld, it's considered night in the end as well. And so if you build the farm up in the end, the same sort of thing will happen. It will not work all the time. So that brings us to the difference between wheat farms and other auto crop farms. With other auto crop farms, the easy mechanic to collect the items is to have another villager present so that this farmer villager will pathfind to that villager and try and throw the items to the villager. Will just quite miss them, and it will fall down into a hopper or into a water stream off to your storage. This type of pathfinding mechanic is used in both Ilmango's video and in Logical Geek Boy's video. I will link both of those videos in the description so you can have a look at that, as I'm not showcasing this particular type of mechanic. So why can we not do that with this particular farm? It's because the villagers craft bread. Wheat is not classified as a breeding type of food for villagers. That's why farmer villager tries and throws the wheat, sorry, not the wheat, the crop to the other villager. He won't throw wheat, he will only throw bread. So he'll craft all the wheat into bread and share it. That just completely rules out using that mechanic. There's two options we have instead. There is using a hopper and a hopper minecart. Now, why can we use that? Because the farmland here is not a full block. As you can see here, it's 1 pixel shorter than the other full blocks. Therefore, a hopper will pick up the items because it's within the block above the hopper. So a hopper here, it can't collect anything above it because it's outside of that block in which the block range in which it can collect an item. Whereas in farmland, it's definitely within range. So if we get a hopper and put it under here, we will see that if I get the right block, no, come on. Where's a block? There we go. So here the wheat has been collected into the hopper, and for this sort of farm, the hoppers will never become full, and you don't have to worry about that sort of thing. The problem with that approach is that hoppers use a lot of iron. They use 5 iron each, and there's going to be at least 20 to 30 hoppers using this sort of design. I've not counted it, but it's a lot. If you haven't got an iron farm, that's a problem. You're not going to be able to craft a lot of hoppers. You're going to use up at least a lot of your iron storage if you're very early game. I would then recommend instead to use a hopper minecart. A hopper minecart only requires 10 iron and a single chest. The other reason hoppers I wouldn't recommend is because when you're trying to scale up, hoppers generate a lot of lag. So that brings us on to the hopper minecart system. You can see here that we have a hopper minecart going through this shape. The problem with this shape is it's not a perfect shape for having rails going back and forth, and that is the main challenge with this. I deduced that the best way to do it is having a minecart snapping onto another rail. I've just talked about resource efficiency for hoppers, and having a hopper minecart is better. Parrot rails are more expensive than rails, require 6 gold and some redstone. So it's not it's not necessarily even more resource efficient. And also, I've got a load of redstone blocks here as well. Again, you don't have to use redstone blocks here. You could just power them with torches underneath, for example, or levers even. So yes, not necessarily more resource efficient, but I still would argue it's better than using a load of hoppers. The main challenge was the actual design itself. The design I came up with, I don't think I've ever seen this sort of thing before. The mechanic is having a minecart snap onto another rail when it's pointed onto that rail. So basically the hopper will go back and forth, and it will, every time it goes back up here, it will snap onto the next one and then go back down. And the reason it goes back down is because the minecart chooses that direction to change its momentum to. This means that this farm is definitely directional oriented. This rail, the top rail where all the ones will point to eventually, it points in the west direction. Those rails on this side instead, the hopper minecart's just going to go along one diagonal. It's never going to go back and forth. You're only ever going to collect stuff on this diagonal, and we need to have the hopper minecart go across every single space in the farm. Now there is a problem with using with this shape. You can't once you get to the middle, you can't just go all the way back down. There needs to be a system in place to allow the hopper minecart to go across the other bit. So now it's on the other bit, and I'm going to show you the mechanism for that. The hopper minecart will come out of here. If a rail points this way, the hopper minecart will go along here and back into the farm. If it goes along here, it will go back onto this side of the farm. So you can see here, it goes across the detector rail. It switches this rail direction, and so when the hopper minecart comes back through here, when it gets to that side eventually and down this along this line, it will move through here, go this way, go across this detector rail, and that will activate the system in which it will flip the rail. And it will go across here and back into the farm, and it's then able to traverse this half of the farm. So we'll see here now that when it gets to the end, it comes all the way down, it goes across here, goes across the detector rail, that then flips this rail here, and so when the hopper minecart comes back, as we saw before, it will go along here, over here, and back into the farm. So how does the redstone work for flipping the rail? Flipping a rail is very simple. You just need to power and depower it, and it will flip the direction in which it goes to, so left or right. We just need to flip that direction whenever we want the minecart to go from one half to another. So at the moment, it's about to come in and go across to this half. Laggy FPS world, I'm really sorry. There we go. and it's now flipped the rail. So what you saw there was it went across the detector rail, that then emitted a redstone signal, and this redstone signal goes into this block, powers this piston extends, and this observer will then power the piston. Now this is a rising edge monostable circuit, so whenever the observer hits this piston, it will then power it. When it comes retracted, it will not power it. This piston, because it received a 1 tick pulse, which is why the observer is used, it will then shoot out the redstone block, and that will then power this block and depower the redstone torch. Hence, this will point in the south direction. And the minecart's about to come back along, and you'll see it exactly the same on this side. It's completely symmetric. There you go, powered it and depowered, and therefore the redstone block has come back up. Yes, it's a very simple system, not too complex redstone, and that's how we flip the rail. Of course, it's very good and all just having a minecart go back and forth and collecting all the items. However, at one point the items are going to fill up and we're never going to collect any items again. So we need a way to unload the hopper. Now, here we have a very simple design. Now, this design is a design I first saw in an Ilmango video. I believe it is Ilmango's design. So this portion of the design is his, and the design of everything below is something I came up with myself. What it does is, as soon as an item is detected in this hopper, the comparator will see that the item's inside the hopper. It will then power this block, which powers the torch, and it will deactivate the torch. And so, since the torch powers this block, the repeater is able to receive a signal, read a signal off it, and that is what powers this block, which powers these powered rails. If there's an item inside the hopper minecart and it comes onto this rail, so you can see here it winds across and then comes up onto here, snaps onto here. When it snaps on, it's going to want to go in that direction first. So as soon as an item goes into the hopper and the comparator reads the signal and turns everything off, the powered rail will turn off and allow the hopper to remain there. Only possible because this hopper minecart tries to go in that direction first, towards this block here, not the other direction. If you were to flip this direct, say we mirrored this onto this side, it wouldn't work because of the hopper minecart would leave the unloader before I had a chance to actually get. That would work if the hopper minecart was bouncing back and forth along a single line, but in this design we can't do that. The important thing about this hopper has to point down into a container. Here I've used a dropper because I've designed this in mind of thinking about using a water stream to collect the items. However, you can use the type of container you want. So we need to find a way to get rid of the items in the dropper, and this is this circuit here. The nice thing about comparators is that it can read the items inside containers through a block. Reads the redstone signal from the amount of items in the dropper. It will then power this block, which powers this redstone, which powers this piston, which extends and pushes this observer space into that observer space. Now, when two observer faces meet, they generate a very simple clock. So if I show you here, and I just get a redstone lamp, like so. No, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not exactly great. Note block. See here that it's generating a 1 tick pulse clock essentially. And that's the idea here. So if we get items into the dropper, so let's just get some wheat, get a stack of it. You can see here that these items are coming out very, very fast, every single tick. So let's see this in action then. So let me just quickly get some wheat. I'm going to drop it here for the hopper minecart to pick up. There we go. There we go. And when it comes on here, it should stop. There you go. Now it will unload, and it goes off. So this leads us to the first farm I'm going to showcase. This is the single module farm. It's the simplest to build, and I would recommend it for more towards the early game. Of course, not every resource here is early game necessarily, especially the redstone blocks. That requires a lot of redstone. Everything is exactly the same as I've already showcased. Here I've got a dropper going into a barrel, so I've used the exact same system here. However, you could have this hopper just pointing directly into the barrel if you want to, but here you can see this is completely full, so this means that this should be starting to fill up. Yep, and you can see here that this is completely extended, and this observer is trying to power that. If you want to know the rates, I tested and I got it to be 232 seed per hour and 133 wheat per hour. So yeah, so that's the other problem with wheat farms. you get a lot of seeds, so you may want to filter out the seeds from your system. So here you can see that there's a lot more seeds than there are wheat. You can basically make a very simple auto storage system using very simple item sorters, the impulse SV item sorters. So that's the simplest farm that we've now looked at. We can now start to get a little bit more complex. So this here is part of the design process that I went through to scale this up. Here I've got the rails in all the same directions, so on both sides they are the same direction. Here I've used the same sort of unloading system. Now there's a problem with this unloading system. That means the items in the hopper will, items in the hopper minecart won't unload. So let's showcase it here. So let's get this wheat here. Let's get this hopper minecart. And it's accidentally done that. There we go. See, it perfectly fine. Although there seems to be I have just not done the circuitry for that. So yeah, there's no circuitry right now to get the items out of the dropper, but you can see here that the wheat is unloading into the dropper as we wanted. However, it's not true for this side. So if I get some wheat, push the hopper minecart along, you'll see here it won't stop. See, it like that did get depowered as we wanted to, but it didn't stop the minecart, and now the minecart it should have 63. Oh, whoops, should have 63. Yep, it's not gonna. It's gonna quickly fill up, and you're then gonna have wastage, and the farm's just not gonna work. So this design doesn't work. So to solve this problem, I came up with a new unloading minecart system. Not the simplest. I mean, overall, the overall logic's not too difficult to grasp. This needs to stop a minecart from leaving the unloader in enough time to collect the items, and that's the main logic. I wouldn't recommend this design for every situation. The reason you see the Ilmango design quite a lot is because the hopper minecart is allowed to bounce back and forth. The problem with the shape of the farm is that you can't just do that. So with that constraint, this needs to be the system. So how does it actually work? So basically, the hopper minecart comes up from here, snaps onto this rail, and it is then inside this piece of string here. You can just about see it. Now, the nice thing about string is it can be used as a redstone component, and it detects when entities are inside it. So if I go into it, it will detect me, and its state will change. Same with with another entity such as a hopper minecart or a minecart or a mob even. Now, when the string state changes, the observer will detect that. So that's why the observer's here. If we don't have the string, the observer will not detect the minecart. So this is basically the hopper minecart detection system. Now, when the observer detects the minecart, it will then emit a pulse into this block, which powers this into this repeater. Now, this repeater is on 3 ticks for a few different reasons. It's to stop sending through multiple signals when the observer detects multiple block updates very quickly. So we won't have multiple fires of the system. So then that will then power into this rising edge monostable circuit. Now, basically, this entire thing is a T flip-flop, much like the T flip-flop over there, where we allow when we flip the rail direction is a T flop system. Here is another T flip-flop. Now, this is a rising edge monostable circuit. Basically, when the repeater powers, that will extend the piston, and so but it's enough time. So in the time it takes for the piston to extend, it's enough time for this repeater to read off a redstone signal being passed through it. And another reason why this is 3 repeaters is 3 ticks, sorry, is so that this doesn't shoot out the block. And then it goes into this repeater, and then this does need to be 1 tick. If it's not 1 tick, this will not shoot out the block. That's the way this T flip-flop works. It works by having this piston push out this sticky piston. Even it's a sticky piston, that's important. It's a sticky piston. It will push out this redstone block, and that will then power this redstone line here and into this repeater. This bit of the circuitry I will talk about in a minute. We need to first talk about the other input to this circuit. The input is the actual hopper and dropper and loader system. So same as before, we detect the items inside the hopper with the comparator, which powers this redstone, and that will go into this block, which then powers this repeater. Now, this repeater is on 3 ticks to be in sync with this one. Now, both the signals here, these 2 signals that you see here, they both have to power this area at the same time, and I'll get onto that in a minute. Now, but that is why this is on 3 ticks. It needs to be in sync with this one. So if you have this on 4 ticks, for example, that has to be on 4 ticks. But it's on 3 ticks, and don't change that because this is where the system works. It took a very long time to get this all working, and 3 ticks was one of the magic. It seemed to be the magic repeater ticks. So that's why it's on 3 ticks. Now this repeater then powers this block, which also powers this piston and powers this repeater. Now when this piston is powered, it will then do the same observer clock that I talked about before. It will then power this block, which then powers the dropper, and the dropper will continuously drop out the items because it's basically a 1 tick pulse clock. Now, onto this part of the circuit. So what we have here is a few redstone lines that are powered by this redstone torch, as you can see, and a redstone dust there. Basically, this is an XOR gate. Now, an XOR gate takes in 2 inputs, A and B, and it will output a signal based on those 2 inputs. So let's say that we have 2 inputs that are off. If the 2 inputs are off, then this will not output a signal. So the XOR gate will not output a signal if both are off. Now, if one or the other is on, so either this signal or this signal is on, then it will emit an output. So either one being on, it will emit a signal. Now, the important thing about an XOR gate is that if both inputs are on, then no signal gets detected. No signal is outputted, and that's what we need the XOR gate for. So when none of them on, the system is not on, and when both of them on, the system is technically on, but we don't want the signal to. We don't have to have a signal, and I'll get on to why we don't have a signal in a minute. These 2 torches here will then power this redstone if there's a signal detected. So say there is just this signal, then it will, which is the only signal we want to take actually. We're never going to have a situation where we have just the item in the hopper situation. I mean, unless we drop an item in accidentally when there's no hopper minecart there, then it will do that signal. But we only going to have cases where we have it off like this. One where it detects the hopper minecart, and the other one where it has a hopper minecart and the items going into the hopper. So when this emits a signal, then it will go into this redstone, and that then comes up here. Now this is glass because, well, we don't want this torch powering a block here, so I had to make this one glass, and I thought, well, if the redstone signal is going to be going up anyway, and I want to keep it compact this way, I have to make it glass, so I've made it glass. So there we go, it doesn't have to be glass, but it's more compact this way, and I am limited on space, as you'll see in a minute. I have to keep it within this entire area. Redstone signal comes up, goes into this repeater. Now this repeater has to be on 4 ticks, again, to stop multiple fires and all the other stuff. It gives it enough leeway for it to not do that. So it's on 4 ticks, and that is another, again, from testing, seems to be the configuration that works all the time, and so if it's not like that, it will sometimes fail. So this repeater, when the signal is going into it, it will then power this redstone torch, and the redstone torch is it's always powering this piston, which is why it's always extended. As soon as we want to have the hopper minecart to go away, then this torch will be powered, and it will retract the block, and the hopper minecart will go down. So that's the redstone system. The overall logic is as follows. Basically, the problem is to stop its hopper minecart from going off too early. We want to detect the hopper minecart and give it enough time to unload at least 1 or 2 items. And the way to do that is to basically stop it from moving entirely, and that's why I've done this piston extended all the time to have it stopped. It will then at least do the check. It will check whether the hopper minecart 1 is there and 2 has items in it. And if it has items in it, it will allow the system to unload the items, and then when it's empty, it will then know it's empty, and it will then allow the hopper minecart to go off. I hope you followed that. It's my first time explaining a redstone contraption, and if you're not don't understand redstone too much, then I apologise. But yeah, that's my explanation. So if anything's unsure, please let me know, and I will try and answer everything in the comments if you put it in the comments. So let's see this in action then. So I'm going to do first a empty minecart. So let's get that. So yeah, it's detected, and it then releases it because it's empty. It was enough time for it to then go, right, yep, I've detected you, I'm going to set the signal. This one's gone, well, there's nothing in the hoppers, so yeah, I'm not going to give a signal. And this then goes, right, okay, one of you's giving me a signal, therefore I will emit a signal. And it then powers this torch. The torch goes out. I need to turn off, and it will then allow this piston to retract and allow the hopper minecart to go on its way. So now for when it has an item in it. So let's get a stack of items. Here we go. It detects it, and you see that it hasn't retracted the piston because it's been quick enough to go, both inputs are on. Now it will not retract. So it then allows the system to unload the items, and this will then go into a container or into a water stream. In the designs I'll be showing you, it'll be water streams. But like I said for the previous farm, you can put it into containers if you really want to. And now it's finished, and it should let the hopper minecart go off, and the system resets itself. It's back to the original configuration. Now, one of the challenges when I was designing this is that in special cases, it wouldn't quite work. So specifically for 2 items, or like in cases where the timing was just ever so specific that it was not quick enough to do everything, and it sort of caused this piston here to power this line as soon as the hopper minecart came in, and it was always power it. I mean, it would work initially, and then it would just break. That's why the repeaters are on the way they are. They're configured the way they are. I just did a load of testing, and I found it to be a brute force method of trying to work out what the problem was. I don't know the exact problems that, and I don't know why it was going wrong, but it was very frustrating. And when I finally got it working, I was so happy. I can show you that with 2 items, it does work. As you see, it works there. I'll show you the same just for 1 item. So let's get 1 item. There you go. Boom. So now that I've explained this, we'll now talk about the quad design. So I've tried my best to make it as symmetric as possible. And again, like I said earlier, the rails of the thing that breaks the symmetry here, they have to be in the same direction, otherwise the farm will not work. Like I said, the hopper will just go along the diagonal if you don't do it this way. I was able to get it all compact into this bit. Now, the previous bit, I didn't actually talk about the water streams. So there's water streams in the dual design over there. The droppers will point into these water streams, and there's a water source here and here. It will then meet in the middle, and then when it meets in the middle, it will then just come down here and allow the items to go into one central stream. Now, the fence gate here is blocking that. I mean, you could put a sign here if you wanted to. So yeah, that's the water stream. But here you can see it's the same redstone circuitry as over there, and the reason it was that size is so that I could have it completely compact without interacting with the other side. Because again, it's a quad farm. It's the same. It's mirrored essentially, and so I needed to make sure I had everything within the space. I mean, there's wasted space here I could have gone into as well, but that just gives you a weird diagonal. So I wanted to, as best as I could, compact it in a simpler enough way. So this then brings us to the second farm. It's a quad wheat farm. It's the same design as before, the same villager crop farm design I've shown in the previous one, and the minecart circuitry is the same as over there. Basically, after this point, the items will go into this stream here, go down here, and come down to here. So here, there's quite a lot here. So if I just get rid of items in my inventory and collect, yeah, at least a stack and a bit of items there. And you can see here, yeah, it's working. So the items come down here, and here you could have, hopper into some storage. I would recommend not having the hopper here. I would at least sort out the items and then store them into some double chests, and that will be fine. So let's have a look at the hopper minecart that actually get unloading in the system. There we go. Here we go. It unloads all the items in it in the same way that I've shown the circuit by itself, and now it will then release the hopper minecart and it will go into here and come and work its way under. So if I just go into spectator mode, we can see it's traversing the farm underneath. There we go. That's how it all works together. This is quite a nice design. It's still fairly efficient. There's not too much lag that's produced by this. There might be some more client-side FPS lag spikes occasionally, but when I was doing it, for me, it was very, very good. So with this farm, you should expect about 4 times as much as the single farm. It's basically the other farm just 4 times. When I did my testing, I found that I got nearly 1,000 per hour. I've just rounded a little bit here, but I got 1,000 seeds per hour and 586 wheats per hour. Now that's about 9 stacks. You can just run it for an 8-hour session, for example, and you will have at least a double chest then, and that will be more than enough for most scenarios. The sort of scenarios I can think of where you need a lot more wheat is there's reasons that I've even designed a wheat farm. I need a lot of target blocks. You need hay bales, and hay bales require 9 wheat. So I need a lot of wheat to make a lot of hay bales to make a lot of target blocks. Yeah, so unless you're not doing that, you can easily this will easily fulfill your needs. And if you want something that's a little bit more advanced than a single one, then I'd recommend building this up. So yeah, another thing is that this farm and the other farm, the smaller farm over there, both of these could be loaded all the time in the spawn chunks if you wanted to. As I said, they don't generate too much lag. Again, if you were using this design with hoppers, it would probably a bit laggy. The villages themselves can cause lag because there's a lot of processing going into the villages. I'd be wary about that. However, this design's pretty good for most needs, and as I've said, so if you want to have it loaded all the time, you could. If you don't want to have it loaded all the time, you don't have to either. You can have it loaded whenever you need it. This brings us on to the final design. Now, some words of warning with this design. It's not going to be easy to build. I'm currently building it on my server, and it's taking a while. It's not necessarily the most efficient farm going. Not in terms of item output. It's very efficient in that case, but it's not efficient in terms of lag and resources on the server side. So on my computer when I was doing testing, it was taking up about 30 and above MSBT, which still ran everything at 20 ticks per second, which is what you want, but that's still a lot of processing power of the resources on the server. So, yeah, bear that in mind if you want to build this up yourself. I might optimize it in the future a little bit more, but for now, I just wanted to showcase what I've done because I thought it was, quite cool. And it's this thing. So let's get a bit closer. Now, this is basically that farm times 9. It's 9 of these farms all stacked together. And so if that farm's basically that farm 4 times, you're then gone up 9 times in this case. Now, when I originally did it, I wanted to have about 10,000 wheat per hour, which meant that I had about 18. And that was too late. Now, even approaching this, I'm getting some frame rate problems. Now, when I'm not here, it's usually fine. When I'm inside the farm, it gets very frame ratey for me. I'm not sure this will be true for everyone, but this is the case for me. Now, it does look very, very cool in my opinion. Very industrious. I absolutely love the look of it. But like I say, it's not. This is definitely an end game sort of thing that I would not design. I would not want to build this up early on. I have waited quite a while to build this on my server because I've not needed a wheat farm this big until now, and so that's why I've designed it. This is the final goal for me, this entire design process. So yes, it's a bit of a monstrosity. You can build it up if you want. It's going to be a bit of a challenge. It will take some time. It's a lot of resources. If I was building this in the overworld, I would not build this out of wood. If I was building this in Nether, even yeah, do not build it out of wood. I mean, if you were to build it out of wood, though, build it out of the Nether planks, the Netherwood stuff. Do not build it out of overworld wood. Just don't. So let's talk about the actual rates of this farm. That's a lot of wheat, 5,000 per hour, and even more seeds. So yeah, so with this, yeah, just it's a lot. 5,000 per hour is it's just over 3 soccer boxes, I believe. That's more than enough. That's so much wheat. I wanted to have a high rates farm. Seeds, however, there's a lot of seeds as well. I don't care too much about the seeds. I am collecting them for the sake of collecting them, but you can just choose to ignore them. But yeah, so the wheat, 5,000 per hour. Now with this, I would definitely recommend building some sort of high speed auto storage for it, or just having a lot of hoppers and double chests to get into it. So yeah, so the difference here is that you need to join up all of the wheat farms together. So you can't just stack that wheat farm over there all together and expect to collect all the items. Now you could do it in a way where you have individual collections for each layer, but I wanted to have it all go into a central location, which is here. Now the reason there's a hopper and a wall here is because I'm using the carpet mod. I will link carpet mod in the description. It's an amazing mod. It's so helpful, so incredibly helpful for technical builds. All the water streams go into the central location, into a central tower, and the items fall down and they go to the bottom, and you can then collect it. There we go. That's all the wheat farms I wanted to showcase today. I hope it was useful, and it will actually allow you to build maybe your own design, or inspire you to design your own ones, or maybe you just wanted to see find an auto wheat farm and you decide that you want to use mine. And if you do, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. Leave a like if you like this, and also subscribe if you want to see more. I'm planning on doing a few more farms. I mean, this is my first video, so apologies if the quality's not too great. It's my first time doing this sort of thing, but I hope it's decent enough. Like I say, thank you for watching, and see you next time.